Hi, welcome to this Python calculator tutorial. We're going to be using how to use while loops, functions, user input, and floats to create a calculator for our users to solve their own math problems, because why not? So, the first thing I love to do anytime I create a program just to make sure it's working right is just print, and then I'll normally do a hello world, but for the sake of this, we're just going to say Python calculator. Okay, just give that a little run. And it comes out. Perfect. So we know our program is working, and now we can start with the meat and the fun part of our code where we're solving these actual problems. So our first step is to create variables for our numbers we're going to want to do math on. So we're going to have our first number, so we'll call this variable, is equal to a float, which is a floating point number. Floating point number. And all that means is it has a decimal. So float and then integer. Yeah, those are those two. And then we're going to want our second number. This is also going to be a float. And we're going to want the operator they want to use. So the operator is pretty much considered just like any other letter. It's going to be a string. So we're going to have to put that in quotes. So operator is equal to an empty pair of quotes. There we go. Now we have what we're going to be putting our users' data into, and we have a place to put it so we can use it later on to get the output the user wants. So after this, we need to create a while loop that is constantly running so the user can, no matter what, for the rest of the time, just keep putting these numbers in. So, while true, there we go. Now there's a while loop, and now we want to get the user's input inside this while loop, because no matter what, we want to keep getting this user input. So I'm going to say x is equal to input. This will be the first number. And we'll leave it right there. I like to put the little less than sign right here, just because when you're in the terminal, it looks a little nicer, and you know you can type. And so after that, we're going to say our first number is equal to x. First. Okay, cool. So they put in the first number. Anytime you're doing math, left to right, you go number, operator, number. Now we need to get the input for the type of operator they want to use. So I'm going to say y is equal to input, if I can spell. There we go. And then operator is equal to y. Nice. So now we need the last number they want to do. I'm just going to make this z, and it's going to be the same thing as the first two, input, and then second number is equal to z. So we're going to do second underscore equals z. So for the sake of this, and just show you how this is going to work, let's print these out. So we're going to print first number, print second number, and then print the operator. So I'm going to save this and run it. Okay, so I'm going to do 5 plus, oh, I put that blank, whoops, 5, enter. There we go, we have 5, 5, and then that was empty because I didn't put anything in, but we're going to do 5 plus 5. There we go, we have 5, 5, and plus. That's all the data we're going to need to give our user the answer they're looking for. So, I'm going to delete this real quick, and then clear out my terminal. So, now that we have, okay, so now that we can get our user input to figure out what the data is they're using, let's create a function so that anytime they pick out that operator, we can just call that function instead of having to type the code out and pass in the parameters. So start with the add, def add. So if you don't know about functions yet, or at least not too much, the parameters go in here. We're gonna say a comma b, and we want to put first number and second number in here when we're calling this. And then we're going to return, and we want to print out the answer. So we're going to say print float, because this, like, if they want to use a decimal and you don't put float in front of this, then it won't be a decimal, or not or, but also it'll just concatenate. So if you say 5 plus 5, it'll give you 55 instead of 10. It's a little goofy and weird to get used to, but as you do it more, you'll understand it. So we're going to say float, put this a plus float b. Let's make the rest of these functions real quick. I am just going to copy this, that way it goes a little faster. This is going to be subtract. Right here, we're going to want to do this, multiply. And then, as you remember, the asterisk is the sign for multiply. And last but not least, divide. Okay, cool. So we have what our user is going to do. We have a way to store their variables. We have the functions that when called and pass the variables, will give us the answer. But how are we going to be able to sort through all of this to figure out what the user wants to do? Well, that's where the if statement comes in. That is a great way of searching through your code or variables or data and getting a specific, we'll call a specific value. It's not the best word, but that's what we're going to use. So I'm going to say if the variable operator is equal to a plus, then we want to call the function add and put in our two variables. So we are going to say first number, comma, second number. Nice. And then we're going to do this for the rest of the functions. Okay, so if the operator is equal to subtract, then we want to call our subtract. Oh, I spelled this wrong. Operator. There we go. Okay, so let's call this subtract function, pass it the parameters. First number and second number. Do our divide, or multiply, whichever you choose. Then we want to call our multiply function. And our last one, the divide. So if operator is equal to the divide, then let's call this function. Okay, so before I break it down and explain more in depth how this is going, how Python is reading it, let's run it and see what happens. Okay, so Python calculator, let's enter our first number, 5. Our operator, let's do multiply, times, and then we'll do 85. 425.0. There we go. It works. So let's try the other one just for the sake of it. We'll do 7, enter, minus, enter, 9, -2. Cool. And then 1, enter, plus 1. 2. Nice. So it works. And now let's get to how and why. Okay, so how this works is up here is what we want the computer to know. This is the list of information that our computer needs in order to get the output we want. We need a place to hold our variables, which is all of the data our users are entering. We need a way to do the math, which is what these functions are doing. Each function has its own purpose, its own set of rules, like every function does. This function, its set of rules is to add, so the only thing it's going to do is add. This one is subtract, it's only going to subtract. Each function that you write in Python should have one purpose and one purpose only. It shouldn't be able to do multiple things, because when you're going to go to work on that later on, it's so much easier to get confused, and it's a good way for bugs to pop up and just give you a big old headache. So that's what this is doing right here. And then this is the meat and the fun part of our code. This is what our users are interacting with, is these 18 lines of code right here. This is everything that's allowing our users to do what they do. So as I said earlier, this while true, everything indented, which is everything inside of here, is going to keep running on a loop no matter what. So as long as you keep filling these out, it's just going to keep running these. And then once you get to this input right here, what's going on is it's saying, okay, well, that's the last input, what's next? Oh, I gotta check the operator. So is the operator a plus? And if you didn't put in plus, that's like, no, it's not a plus. So what's next? It says, okay, is the operator subtraction? No, it's not that. So screw that. We're gonna ignore it, keep going. Is it multiply? And if it's multiply, it goes, oh, hey, that's what this is. That's this right here. What am I doing if it's a multiply? It says, oh, okay. You want me to run this function. You want me to do this specific thing. And you want to do that by using our first number and second number. And it says, okay, so I can do that. I have those rules. You already made those. So then it comes all the way back up to here. And it puts first number in here, second number in here. And it does what we have in here, which is multiply. Pretty simple. And yeah, that's about it for the Python calculator. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. And thank you for watching.